Well, to say that was a chaotic game would be nothing short of, well, the truth. Every Chelsea-Liverpool game recently has had some kind of drama. It's always had something about it. I don't know if it's because I'm a Chelsea fan that I'm maybe a bit influenced, but there always feels like there's something in the air where it can go either way. And obviously Chelsea have got some results against them recently, and today was probably the hardest one they've had in quite a while, but the actual determination they showed to grind it out despite all the suspensions and the injuries, I think they can be proud of themselves. And it was a really chaotic game. For parts of it, good chaos, parts of it, bad chaos. We'll get into what I mean by that, but the first half specifically, Chelsea very much controlled. Liverpool posed very little threat going forward. They struggled to play out. We'll look at what Chelsea did to prevent that. And Chelsea just had the upper hand, I think, trying to control the game. They really played it at their own pace, and Liverpool suffered from that. And the second half, obviously, we saw changes. They were needed changes. And for a period, Liverpool looked to gain control, which we expected to see. But it all just I don't know what happened. Everything just went out the window, and it started becoming some bombardment back and forth where Chelsea seemed to grow back into it despite having both centre-backs go off and arguably bringing on the worst attackers. But tactically, I think Enzo Maresca was incredible today. There were some issues, I think they are very clear, but maybe we have to cut him some slack based on the squad he has available, and he will be the most excited man for international break. I can assure you that. I bet he cannot wait. Very interesting game today, though. The lineups were kind of as expected. I think the main thing I was wondering is whether Bradley would start a right back or whether it be Szoboszlai and Wirtz comes in. Obviously, we did see it started with Conor Bradley, as we can see. The other interesting thing was that when we first saw the lineups, we assumed it would be Reece James in midfield like it always normally is, except it wasn't. It was Gusto in midfield and Reece James at right back, and I can only assume that's because they wanted to nullify the threat of Isak, who really, and Ekitike, should he have started. They both have a tendency to drift into the left half space and then kind of come in and whip it with their right foot. And I think that they were really Maresca was hoping that, considering Gusto's not been impressive defensively in recent times, James can probably deal with that a lot better, and he did so pretty well. We have to cut him some slack. He's not quick, so he has to use his body a lot more, and he did that pretty well. I don't think that Isak really posed any threat throughout the game. Obviously, he did get the assist, and we'll get to that as well, but this is the general lineups, and I don't think there's anything too interesting about the lineup in terms of no rogue shouts. Maybe Garnacho is, but I thought we might have seen something where Hato starts and Cucurella's in some weird position, or Gusto at right wing. I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd done something like that. So very simple, basic, but it was an effective lineup, and I think it was well chosen from Maresca. And Chelsea actually tend to dominate the game a lot more than what I think people would realise, considering Liverpool have been so good this season. And they did so by maintaining a pretty confident in-possession structure. If we go into what they look like when they had the ball, it looks something a bit like this. Also, thank you very much, JLA, tactics board for this. I've switched to it and I love it. So I will link it in the description if any of you want access to this lovely software that you can have fun with and do what I do. But we can see here already Chelsea adopting that. It looks like a 3-3-4, I guess, in this situation, but it was for the most part a 3-1-6, which we're becoming accustomed to seeing now under Maresca. We like his 3-2-5, that was very common, but where a lot of opposition teams, and especially against low blocks, they drop an extra midfield player into the defensive line, or one of the wingers becomes a wing back, and so you end up facing a back five. So I think Chelsea are very accustomed now to putting 6 players on the attacking line to help have the extra man. And they did that again today for a fair while, especially with Gravenberch and McAllister also tracking back, and Kirkes also following the inside runs, similar with Bradley. But we can see in this moment here, Badiashile, he's got a little football. Here it is. Wonderful stuff. Obviously, Sanchez is a bit higher, but in this moment, there's nothing crazy that you look at, I think, and go, well, Liverpool can't cope with that. But I think it's the inside runs that really killed them off in these moments by Cucurella into this channel here, because then Konate has to shift across, Van Dijk has to shift across, and then you've got Caicedo or Gusto who can make these runs. I mean, Gusto loved one of these into the box quite a lot. And the first goal came from something like this, and I want to show you, if we go back slightly, in these kind of moments, look at who's got so much time and space. Mr. Caicedo. If we look in the middle of this pitch, he's got pretty much the entire middle third to himself. And I think that's really crucial because whilst he's brilliant defensively, you can't say he's not good going forward. He has scored some brilliant goals recently, and obviously today he scored an absolute worldie. I mean, it was sensational, best goal I've seen in a while. But we know he's capable of doing that. Now, obviously, it was a low XG chance that he scored from, but Liverpool can't afford to give him that kind of time, that kind of space, and yet they did, and they were happy to do it. The issue with Caicedo in this position is that you've got Szoboszlai, who was putting pressure on the ball carrier. In this case, it was Szoboszlai, and then Isak's both covering James and Achimpong in that back three. So you've kind of got this front two underloaded by Chelsea's back three. And then McAllister and Gravenberch. I mean, I just want to highlight the gap between them here. Look at the distance between them. It's huge. And that's because Gusto and Fernandes are dropping deeper and trying to stretch them as far apart as possible so that either Pedro could drop into these positions and receive a pass, but more so for Caicedo to have time and space, which he did. And a pass comes in, and he's got all this space to carry the ball, and he gets his shot away, and it is a sensational goal. And we're going to take a look at it. So we can see that here. This is Badiashile with the ball, obviously left-footed, so he's playing on the left of the back three, and rightfully so, and he's looking for a pass into here. And he does it pretty nicely. Enzo's dropped. You can see already as well. This is Gravenberch. This is McAllister. So you've got one midfielder here, and you've got your second midfielder here. Who's picking up Caicedo? This is what we spoke about. He's in the middle of the pitch with loads of time, loads of space. We can see him here. Loads of time, loads of space. If we move it on, you can't quite see him, but he's in this gap behind the referee, just there. And I think what's really crucial are the runs made by both Cucurella and Gusto. Them runs we talked about on the tactics board, them inside channel runs. Crucial. Gusto running in that way. Cucurella coming from back here and running in this direction. It's dragging the players, the Liverpool defensive line all over the place. And also credit to João Pedro, who is occupying both Van Dijk and Konate. And I think it's this back four that becomes really confused about who they're meant to be picking up, and the extra runs of Cucurella and Gusto that causes the confusion, which leads Caicedo to have the chance to score. Let's move on to this bit. Here we go. You can see Gusto. If you can't see him, here he is. And you can see he's lining up a shot. And he's thinking about shooting from this chance, but you've got 1, 2 players blocking. You're not going to score from there. Well, unlikely he's going to score from there. So he's lining up the shot, but he does this. He pauses, stutters for a moment, and I think he notices the runs, as we mentioned. Gusto's running in between there, and now look at where Cucurella is. Just here, he's picked up by Bradley. Bradley has to follow the run of Cucurella in this situation, which means he's then dragged out and occupying Cucurella wherever he goes. And you can also see, and I think it's crucial, if you look at the vision of Van Dijk here, he can see this run by Gusto. And I think he notices Kirkes isn't picking that up. He has to follow it. But also, you've got João Pedro making a run here. And so Konate has to follow that run as well. So you've got runners all over the place. And it just opens up this gap, which doesn't seem much, but it opens up this gap between the centre-backs. And as we get to the shooting moment, look at Van Dijk's body positioning here now. Van Dijk here, he's stepped in to try and block the run of Gusto, thinking that the little slip-through ball will come in and Gusto's going to have a shot on goal. Konate's, I think, just kind of blocking a central zone at this point. He's lost João Pedro, and he seems happy to do so. He looks more intent on blocking Caicedo's shot, but unfortunately it's too little too late. And we see a cracker of a goal right into that top corner. I mean, my God, it was a brilliant goal. But what I was really impressed with was Chelsea, when they were in the final third, they didn't just stop there, they also pressed really well. And again, if we look at the tactics, this is Liverpool trying to play out from the back. Garnacho inverted from the left wing position, so you'd expect him probably to be picking up Conor Bradley. He inverted to pick up Konate instead. João Pedro's picking up Van Dijk. Cucurella's shifted over to cover Bradley. Badiashile shifts over. We can see this is man for man. All over, man for man. There, down here. I mean, all over the place. And it forces Liverpool to struggle to play through the middle. Mamardashvili cannot play passes into these areas. He can maybe play it to Van Dijk because the pressure on him's, not as intense. But then who's the second pass to? It's so difficult. The moment the ball comes to Van Dijk, Gusto and Pedro have blocked him off. So then it has to go to Konate. You've got a passing lane cut off. Fernandes is there. Wherever it goes, there is always a problem. And so that really prevented Liverpool from playing through the middle. When we know they love to do that. That is their main form of attack and transition, is play it into Gravenberch. He spins with the ball in the midfield and tries to find a pass out wide for Gakpo, Ekitike, slips it through for Isak or Salah, and they have little third man runs that causes chaos for the opposition's defence. In this case, they weren't able to do it, and that was because Chelsea pressed so well. Now, I'm not saying that they did it relentlessly the entire match. It's tough to keep that up the entire game, and I think the introduction of Curtis Jones really disrupted that, and also moving Szoboszlai to right back. I think that had a massive effect on the game, and ultimately that did lead to Liverpool's equaliser. I mean, it was a good cross in. Isak, I don't think, meant the assist, but it falls to Gakpo in the box, and at that point you know it's going in the back of the net. There's not much, I don't want to say there's not much Chelsea could do, but at this point when you've got Reece James playing as your right centre-back, you brought Lavia on, you're expecting some kind of key moments to happen for Liverpool, and obviously it did with their goal from Gakpo in the 62nd minute. But what I really want to highlight is this. Look at this statistic here. And this is at the full-time whistle. I nearly took a screenshot in the 90th minute thinking how Chelsea have managed to get a point and dominated the ball in the final two-thirds, without creating any big chances. But then we saw the introduction of Estevao. And we're going to come back to this photo in a minute. When we look at the introduction of the substitutes for both teams, we see something that looked a bit more like this. It's a very makeshift backline from both teams. You've got Szoboszlai and Gravenberch in the back four for Liverpool with Van Dijk and Robertson. Van Dijk's the only one that started in his position. And when you look at Chelsea's back four, I mean, you've got Cucurella here, Hato, James and Gusto. Only Cucurella started at left back out of that back four. I mean, you've had Badiashile and Achampong go off, injured, even more problems. Gusto's had to move to right back. Reece James, who's not a centre-back, obviously now in the frame as well. And I think at this point, Chelsea are just hoping for the draw. I think Maresca was happy for a draw. And suddenly, in the 90th minute, I want to highlight the importance of this man. This man changed the game. Caicedo will be my man of the match. I take nothing away from that. He was brilliant. But this man, Estevao, what a player. He came on and changed the final 10 minutes. Chelsea started controlling the game again in Liverpool's final third. Liverpool have scored so many late goals recently that we're expecting them to have that final push and maybe score the winner. I don't think any of us expected Chelsea in the 85th minute to be the team that went and did that, and yet they did it so confidently. They played the ball around nicely, recycled it pretty effectively in Liverpool's final defensive third. That's not something I think many people expected with a team like this. But again, Estevao, he was the man that created all the key moments. And I want to focus on the positioning again of Cucurella. Endo comes on. He's picking up Caicedo. Szoboszlai's out here, picking up Bino Gittins. And you've got a non-centre-back playing now at right centre-back in Gravenberch, who probably doesn't know whether to pick up Guiu, misses the run of Cucurella. But you can see here, there is an opportunity for the run to come in. And it does, on a few occasions actually. And then you've got Estevao, who's able to find little pockets of space, and he did it brilliantly the entire game, well, from the moment he came on. And I want to go back to the moment, the screenshot that I showed you just a minute ago. This one. This number at the 90th minute, before Enzo hit the post with his header, this number was 0. Get rid of that. That was 0. The number of shots, obviously, was less. The expected goals was less. They had so much possession, and yet they'd created no big chances. They'd had only a few shots, and yet they've had so many corners, and they weren't really able to create. And I think Chelsea's downfall was their chance creation throughout this match, and I think that's been a problem for a little while now. And the quality on the left wing is just nowhere near the level it should be, given how much they've spent. Garnacho, he's all right. Gittins hasn't really impressed me yet. It was Cucurella who was able to make something happen on that left-hand side today, but Estevao was the one that changed it. He created that moment for Enzo where he hit the post, and then obviously he scored himself. So Estevao was pretty much the reason for the two big chances that Chelsea had in this game. And we're going to look at that final goal, and it came from something similar that we've looked at already. This is Cucurella here, just over here with the ball, carrying it. You can see he's got so much space to run into. He can go centrally or he can play it out wide. He's got two options, and we know he likes to make these runs into the channel, so we're probably expecting him to play it inside, so that play it out wide so he can make the run into the channel. He kind of does. He plays it out wide and he starts making this run, but he delays it. And what I think is really important is the look of wide triangles, and that's going to sound very bizarre, but you've got one. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong thing again. Let's go with, we'll use the lines. You've got 1, 2, 3. And what's really crucial for these wide triangles is you have two players infield. And that's what Cucurella is currently doing. Instead of having, let me get rid of these again. Instead of having a player there, and there, that limits your opportunity to drift infield and create something. You're forced to go back. In this situation, Cucurella makes the right run, and we end up here. Now, Enzo Fernandez is the one currently in the left half space. Bino Gittins has got the ball out on the left, and then you've got Cucurella, who's not been picked up by anybody. So you've got Endo picking up Fernandez, Szoboszlai picking up Bino Gittins, no one on Cucurella. We move it on again. Look at the space here for Estevao. He's found the run at the back post. Exactly what a wide player should do. Make the run at the back post. You never know what's going to come into the box. Make sure you get there, at least to get a foot on it. Regardless of what happens, if you've made the run, whether the ball falls to you or not, you've done the right thing. The ball, somehow, to be fair, I didn't think Enzo was going to play this pass, but he's able to slip it in. Cucurella stays onside. And at this moment, you can just see this pass coming across the face of goal. And that's exactly what happens. Estevao at the back post taps it in the 95th minute for 2-1, and obviously Chelsea and Maresca celebrate like crazy, and rightfully so. I think they partly deserved it today just for their sheer dedication and concentration throughout the entire game. Their defensive moments were impressive. They were aggressive, they were tenacious, they were ambitious, and that's something that they've lacked. And I think they should be really impressed with themselves given the injuries that they've got. I wish I could say that Chelsea are coming out of this with a 10 men, not 11 men. They are, but there was still a red card for Enzo Maresca this time, so maybe not setting the standards perfectly, but he won't care, and rightfully so. Huge moment for Chelsea. Knocks Arsenal to the top of the league with Liverpool falling down. Not great for me as a Chelsea fan, but also 3 points. So I think all in all, Chelsea can be happy. Liverpool should be really concerned about the performance in general. I think that they were poor today, and they were poor against Galatasaray, and they were poor against Crystal Palace as well. They've not looked themselves recently. There are key areas of this team that can be exploited. I think the fullbacks, despite improving them over the summer, have actually looked worse than what we're used to, and that's not something we were expecting. I also think the midfield is just getting torn apart too easily. Again, not something we were expecting. Teams now know to put the pressure on Gravenberch so that he can't dictate the game, and Chelsea did that today. Ultimately, 2-1. Who cares? Who cares about the tactics? It's all about the points. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Videos will be back. They are back. I don't know if that's good or bad, but either way, let me know what do you think down below of this game. Did Chelsea deserve it? Who was your man of the match? Let me know, and until next time, I will see you very soon.